Part 43. I feel jealous and hateful, hate fiercely, and anger will flourish. Because of its beautiful scenery, Fengshan Mountain is one of the favorite places for rich people in the city to play. In addition to the magnificent villas built by the rich and powerful, there are also many businessmen who invested capital and built many high-end restaurants here because of the scenery. There is also delicious food, which meets the interests of those young masters and young ladies, and there are often people who are willing to spend money to help. On this day, Lin Qijun made an appointment with the owners of several silk and satin houses to discuss business, and decided to have dinner together in Fengshan Mountain. And it was also at this time that he left the city. Sitting in the car, there is nothing else to do. Naturally, I look at the scenery outside the window, and when I look at it, a flash of color suddenly flashes in my eyes. Several cars are parked on the green space by the roadside, and a few soldiers next to me are carrying long guns or squatting or standing. One of the most conspicuous, although parked farthest, a flag erected in front of the car fluttering in the wind. The arrogant and domineering style and color can be seen at a glance that it is from the customs office. Lin Qijun seemed to have been slapped hard on the back of the head, and suddenly shouted, "Stop!" The driver in the front seat was startled, and he quickly released the accelerator to reduce the speed, while asking for instructions. "Master, do you want to stop?" Lin Qijun was stunned. Immediately turned his mouth and said, "Don't stop, you drive slowly, don't be like flying sand and rocks." He said absent-mindedly, turned his head and looked hard at the back glass window. After thinking about it, the chief of the General Administration of Customs should be carrying Bai Xuelan in his car. Could it be that he is also going to Fengshan Mountain? If it is Fengshan Mountain for fun, I don't know if he has brought Xuan Huaifeng with him. If you bring Xuan Huaifeng and stop on the side of the road for no reason, what are you doing? Could it be that the two of them? Lin Qijun yanked his heart so hard that he almost jumped up from his seat, so angry that he felt like being slapped in the face by someone. But he tried his best to suppress his anger, shaking his head again and again in his heart. No, no, even if Bai Xuelan wanted it, how could someone as shy as Huaifeng agree? Wouldn't that make him a promiscuous beast? But in just a moment, a new voice came out, shouting back and asking, "Why not? Huaifeng looks good, who knows what he thinks in his heart? If he is steadfast in love, he should not forget the past and vote for the powerful customs chief. Besides, if he was a serious person, how could he have given me ambiguous hints in the past? Such an initiative, to kiss him, he does not resist. It can be seen that the outside is clean and clear, but the inside may not be good. Do not. In the past, he must have been sincere to me. And I am not a fool, of course I can see that. But now he was spoiled by Bai Xuelan." Thousands of thoughts poured in. Lin Qijun watched as the customs car became smaller and smaller in his field of vision, turning into an invisible little black spot, but he felt like a big black hole had been cut out in his heart. It was empty all of a sudden, and then filled with cold acid in one breath. It's all Bai Xuelan's fault. Thinking back then, how carefree, how sweet and happy he and Huaifeng were when they rode the car to the countryside to play. It was supposed to be the fate of his life, and the thing in his palm was torn to the bone and robbed. Now, he is actually cutting his heart with a small knife. The pain and agony like a blade made him gasp for breath, and the pain was so painful that he almost cried. And he wanted to devour people's flesh and blood. Lin Qijun sat in the back of the car, and his whole body was immersed in such extreme emotions. After an unknown time, the car stopped, and the driver came to open the door for him. Seeing him sitting still in the back seat, the driver said, "Master, you have already arrived at the fan restaurant. Please come down." After saying this twice, Lin Qijun waved his hand in despair. "I want to be there." If you think about something in the car, don't harass me. Go for a walk elsewhere. After dismissing the driver, he was alone in the car, sad and sighing for a while. Slowly, finally turned back a little bit. I comforted myself and thought that the ancients were right, that the love of children is the most harmful to heroes, and success is the reality. Although it is sad now. But tonight's agreement to discuss the business of the foreign firm cannot be changed temporarily. It can be seen that life is helpless, and every time you have to force a smile, you are not comfortable. Lin Qijun sighed heavily, took out a delicate handkerchief from his suit pocket, wiped the wet marks on the corners of his eyes, looked in the rear mirror again, and trimmed his newly repaired hair by the Western barber. He was satisfied, only got out of the car and walked into the fan restaurant gracefully. The people he had asked for had already arrived before him, reported their names, and a cub introduced him into a small room. As soon as Lin Qijun entered the door, he was laughed at by the others. And they all said, "You need to be punished. You need to be punished. How can you invite us here, and you are late?" Some people said that they would be fined 3 drinks. Lin Qijun first apologized sincerely, and then said, "Since we are in a restaurant, can we do it in a Western-style way?" Others asked, "I don't know what the rules are for foreigners." "Brothers, please forgive the younger brother." This witty remark made everyone laugh, so they stopped mentioning the penalty for drinking, and asked Lin Qijun to take a seat. Taking the vegetable brand, I asked a waiter to put down the menu, and chatted and laughed a few times. When the big dishes were served, everyone brought their knives and forks. Boss Wang is the more mature of the people in the room, and the knife and fork made him very unaccustomed. He pounded the steak on the plate with all his strength. He shook his head and said with a wry smile, "I don't understand, this foreigner is good at everything, but he is stupid enough to eat knives and forks. So much work is not as good as our ancestors' 2 thin woods and a pair of chopsticks." Boss Joe snorted and swallowed a piece of bloody half-raw beef into his mouth, and said, "This stuff is all the rage right now. Don't you see there are fan restaurants opening up all over the city? I don't think fans' dishes are delicious. It's true that as soon as foreigners are popular, foreign goods are also popular." Another said, "Boss Lin is going to make a lot of money, and now he has the most prosperous business." Boss Joe, don't talk about other people. If you talk about the scenery, you are not bad. You have a dyeing factory, and recently opened a new silk and satin factory. Can you make all the money in the world alone? Several people chatted and laughed. Laughing, after saying something that didn't matter, and after eating 7 or 8 points. Boss Wang asked tentatively, "Brother Lin, you invited us here today, isn't it just for the sake of eating cabbage?" Lin Qijun used his knife and fork well. "The food is also the most gentle. Cut the steak into small pieces, put the silver fork to the mouth, chew it slowly, swallow it, and say, 'Did you guys hear any new news from the customs recently?' These bosses have been in office since Bai Xuelan took office. There was no less loss, and when Lin Qijun mentioned customs, their expressions changed. Boss Joe became dignified, put down his knife and fork, and asked, 'Are there any new tricks on the other side of the customs? Is it about the new tax system? It's been delayed. It's the wind that my acquaintances in customs have quietly leaked.' Okay." Boss Wang waved his hand at the 2 people who were muttering, "Stop guessing, and wait for Brother Lin to say everything." "Brother, say it." Everyone looked at Lin Qijun. Lin Qijun said, "I only heard a little bit of wind. Probably at the customs side. The ship is about to be inspected." Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Boss Wang said, "I thought you said something, and bluffed us. When it comes to checking the boat, when does the customs not check it? Every time we go to the dock, we have to board the boat to check." This is a routine. Lin Qijun sighed. It's so easy, so why should I worry about it? What I heard is not the case. In the future, it will not follow official articles like before, but random checks. What? What checking? These kinds of listening words that I don't understand feel wrong when I hear them. Several bosses at the same table couldn't help leaning over slightly. Lin Qijun said, random. That's a foreigner's word. Just pick a few boats and take a look. No one knows who will be picked, and it's almost a matter of drawing lots. If this rule is changed, it will no longer be an official article. People from customs, if they choose your ship and go to the ship to check, it will be rummaging through the boxes, all the same to the official document. The same cargo, a slightly wrong amount, or 1 or 2 items entrained, the whole ship will be given to you. If you detain it, you will also be held accountable. Boss Joe exclaimed, oh. It's not like raiding a home? Who else can withstand such a torment with a shipment of goods? Boss Zhang poked a piece of raw tomato and threw it away. Biting it in his mouth, he said coldly, needless to say, these are the tricks that Mr. Pai came up with it again. It's not enough to feed an unruly wolf. He took the opportunity to change the tax system and got it. A large amount of money has only been gone for a few days. Now there is another chicken spot check. He doesn't kill our business people. I feel uncomfortable. Boss Joe echoed. That is, those from the customs are not good things. A good cargo, if you turn it over, who will be damaged? The person opposite sneered. Boss Joe, what can damage you? It's all one by one. The cloth can't be broken even if you drop it. I'm so miserable. If I didn't handle the Japanese glass business comfortably. They pretended to be careless and smashed a box of my goods. Damn it. Yes. In this world, no one can live if they do business in a proper way. Everyone's face was heavy. Now that ships pass through the customs, it is commonplace to see which one does not secretly report less or not, and which one does not carry some high-priced foreign gadgets more or less. But if there is a real search, everyone will be frightened. Boss Wong was cunning. Seeing the excitement of the crowd, he didn't say a word. He looked around and saw Lin Qijun with Erlang's legs crossed, holding his coffee, and drinking slowly with style. He couldn't help laughing. Brother Lin, although you are young. But among our group of people, you are one of the best. Why don't you give everyone an idea? Lin Qijun asked back. I have an idea. Why do I need to invite everyone to come here in a hurry? Boss Joe said, aren't you classmates with the chief of customs? Your relationship is always deeper than ours. Brother. We are all on the same boat, so don't be a fool. He stretched out his hand and patted Lin Qijun's shoulder. Lin Qijun said astringently, to tell you the truth, if it were someone else, I would dare to sell this classmate's face, but this boss Pai is a man. Sigh, facing this person, he is such a thin classmate. My love is nothing. He sighed for a while. Then left a conversation and wrote lightly, but it's not completely impossible. Boss Zhang suddenly regained his spirit and put his face close. What's the magic trick? Lin Qijun said in a low voice, it's the Republic of China after all. Even if it's the Prime Minister. I don't think he can completely ignore the Chamber of Commerce's protests. That's right. Boss Zhang slapped his thigh. Please protest to the Prime Minister. It makes sense. How much has the Chamber of Commerce contributed to the government over the years? To fight and buy weapons, the officials spread their palms to us. Fundraising is tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands. If the Prime Minister doesn't make the decision for us, I can't control what difficulties the country will have in the future. I can't even take care of myself. How can I take care of the country? Boss Joe squinted his eyes, looking to the side. He called Boss Wong, Brother Wong, brothers have to rely on you. Your friendship with President Yang in the Chamber of Commerce is extraordinary. With your words, President Yang will definitely help, Boss Wang said with a small smile. I will never shirk a favor to help everyone, but to help myself. But there is one thing, to protest, there must be a reason for protesting. I went to the Chamber of Commerce empty-handed. What can I ask President Yang to protest to the Prime Minister? To protest against the customs inspection of our shipments? That is their official duties, and it is an upright thing to say. So, even if you protest, you must find some appropriate reason. Boss Zhang is weird with a tisk, he said, I want to sue, but I can't find a reason? The surnamed Pai is not a good thing. He accepts gifts, accepts bribes, and plays tricks. Which one does he not do? The guards swaggered through the market, arrogant to the sky. According to me, Brother Wang went to President Yang to talk about it first, so as to attract his attention. How about each of our families? We collected some evidence and sent it to the Chamber of Commerce. Yes. It seems to be a public opinion, and everyone suffers from him. When the public opinion comes together, even the Prime Minister can't protect him. Just pinch. A few people talked about each other very positively. Only Lin Qijun was on the side, taking sips of his coffee, like an outsider. Boss Wang looked at him and said, Brother Lin, look at you, you are so thoughtful. If we are not talking well, you remind me. Lin Qijun was always a little uneasy about what happened when he couldn't let go, was talking about an important matter, but unexpectedly distracted God for no reason. He was awakened by the words of Boss Wang, and forced a smile. Everyone has thought about everything, I naturally agree with my whole heart. People knocked and opened. A waiter in a suit came in, walked to Lin Qijun's ear, bent over, and said, Master Lin, there is a gentleman in the room next door. He said he was your friend. Please come and see him. Lin Qijun also felt confused. He couldn't think of who it was. He frowned and asked, which one? He wants to see me, why doesn't he come? That waiter had received a tip. So naturally he had to handle things more closely. Hearing Lin Qijun's question, he bent his waist a little lower, leaned closer to his ear, and whispered, the gentleman said, I see you. If you don't want to go, I will tell you that his surname is Zhou, and he is a very close friend of yours. Boss Zhou? Lin Qijun was stunned for a moment, then his whole body became cold. And he had already guessed 7 or 8 points. After being stunned for a few seconds, he knew that he couldn't hide. He stood up and smiled reluctantly. There is an old friend. Please come to see me. I want to excuse myself for a while. Please forgive me, forgive me. A waiter led him to another room. As soon as the door opened, the smell of stinky smoke poured out from the room and got into the tip of the nose. Lin Qijun was always bored. Looking into the room, 2 tall men in short coats were standing. There was only a bald man with a flat nose sitting beside the table. On the white lace tablecloth, there was a domineering look all over his body. It was the flame that sold tobacco soil to help the boss Zhou Huo. Zhou Huo saw that he was coming, put the toothpick in his mouth, pointed to the table, and said, come. Sit down. Lin Qijun didn't want to sit, but stood there, and whispered, not without complaint, I didn't say yes. Now, we don't see each other. So as not to be seen by others. We are dealing with each other, and it is difficult for others to know. Zhou Huo said, Young Master Lin, don't underestimate others. My surname is Zhou. And I go out in a good manner. The shop's businessman, I can't humiliate you if I talk to you a few words. Besides, I'm not paying attention. Why don't I ask waiter to invite you? What if I ask these 2 brothers to go to your room? Lin Qijun didn't want to have a conflict with him, so he held back his anger and asked, You asked me to come over. What's the matter? Of course it's a good thing. Zhou Huo took something out of his arms and slammed it on the table. Yours. It is actually a fixed deposit that the Bank of Japan can withdraw at any time. If you look carefully, the amount is quite large. Lin Qijun was puzzled. Why is this mine? Zhou Huo said. Although this lord is a rude person, but I have always been fair in my actions. Since you have helped me, I cannot miss your share. This is the bonus from the last few times. Take it. Lin Qijun understood, shook his head and said, no, I'm helping these things, not for money. I'm just a businessman, I just want to be safe. Take this back. You don't want it? No. Zhou Huo raised his head and looked at his face to get angry, glanced at him and laughed savagely. Master Lin, I see that you have a smart face in vain. And you are really not very good. To tell you the truth, you want the money that Zhou Huo took out, but you don't want it, I have to. The voice was suddenly sharp. Lin Qijun's back was furrowed by his evil eyes. His heart tightened suddenly, he lowered his eyes, and stood silently. Zhou Huo raised his voice and asked, why, don't you really want to accept it? The surname is Lin, don't treat yourself like a toy. The two strong men behind him also raised their sleeves and raised their eyebrows and shouted, shame on you. The head of the family takes you as a brother, what kind of stinky air are you putting on his grandma? If you don't take money, you are still guilty of smuggling drugs. Don't fucking want to be a bitch and want to set up a torii? Be careful to get angry. We are in charge, let's dig out what you have done. And let's see what happens to the boss of drugs. Lin Qijun was scolded with fear and regret, his face was as white as paper, and he shrank his head and dared not move. Shut up. You little beasts. Zhou Huo stopped his subordinates, stood up and walked in front of Lin Qijun, patted him on the shoulder, changed a friendly face, and said, brother is also for you. Well, let's make money together. I know you feel uncomfortable, thinking that drugs are harmful, but that's not the case. Look, those who have become addicted, if they don't have drugs, they roll on the floor crying, how miserable it is with us, they can have a comfortable life. One day we don't sell it, and let them be addicted to their hair. That's called sin. Well, why bother with money? Take it. Picking up the deposit slip, forcibly into Lin Qijun's hands. Lin Qijun took a slow look at his smiling face, then looked at the two tall servants behind him, gritted his teeth, and silently stuffed the deposit into his pocket. Zhou Huo smiled and said, ha, that's good. He greeted Lin Qijun to sit down and asked him, I heard that the customs is planning to inspect ships. Do you have any idea of how to deal with it? Lin Qijun sighed and said, I'm doing it, but if it's successful or not, I don't dare to make a deal. Zhou Huo asked, what are you going to do? Lin Qijun said, call the Chamber of Commerce to protest and put pressure on the Prime Minister. Zhou Huo laughed, you guys do this in business. It's not surprising to smell money on your body. Why is there a sour smell on your body? Why protest, put pressure, and use it as a bird? It's better to spend some money and buy all the people who inspect the boat, regardless of what is on the boat. What, just report that the top is cotton? Lin Qijun sneered. This man is shrewd. If he wants to change the way of checking ships, he will naturally have a backup attack to prevent bribing his subordinates. How do you know that he will not go to customs next step? What about internal rectification? Zhou Dongjia, you have to be careful. Last time he was ambushed and shot, this man loves to hold revenge. Maybe one day he will find you on your head. Zhou Huo said disdainfully, I'm afraid he's a dick. Even if he knows I did it, what can he do to me? The police chief is still my brother. He dares to touch me without any evidence? Give him a gun, don't be too full in the future, just look for trouble with this lord. Otherwise, hey, Next time it won't be so cheap. Lin Qijun was originally cowardly and timid, but this time he has dealt with underworld people, and he has seen another world. Drug smuggling is one thing, and Xuan Huaifeng is another. In terms of left and right, the confrontation between him and Bai Xuelan is very serious. Whenever I think of Bai Xuelan, I feel jealous and hateful. And that kind of hatred is something I have never had before. Hate fiercely, and anger will flourish. The anger was full of anger, and the courage was also unconsciously increased. Lin Qijun was silent for a moment, then suddenly said, "If that's the case, why don't you come here again, do things neatly? And everything will be convenient in the future." Zhou Huo gave him a surprised look. "You brat, why did you suddenly change? Dare to hear it?" "Bloody?" Lin Qijun said embarrassedly. "I'm just asking casually, don't take it seriously." Zhou Huo said, "That bastard got caught in an ambush once, and his courage was broken. With so many people going in and out, how could he be so good at starting? Don't think that this lord is on the road, and he will beat people up and ambush them at every turn. There is no need for that. Why would this lord fight for the lives of his brothers? As long as the surnamed Pai has learned a lesson, don't interfere with this lord's affairs, this matter will be over. If necessary. It's not bad to be able to deal with each other. It's good to get to know each other and not to tie the knot. It's easy to talk about things in the future." Lin Qijun was quite surprised. "How is this possible? He was shot by you, but he is still willing to deal with you?" Zhou Huo laughed and said, "Brother, you don't understand this. All officials are afraid of death. We deal with them, just like dealing with dogs, hit him with a stick, and he is scared. Be good, give another one, eat candy, touch your head, and follow your hair. When the time comes, send him some money every month, and friendship will come naturally. This is called bitterness before sweetness. It doesn't matter." He looked very proud. Lin Qijun suddenly realized. Thinking about it carefully, he didn't act like this when dealing with himself, and now he has become two grasshoppers on the same rope. Lin Qijun was full of disgust. He smiled bitterly and said, "Boss Zhou, you are amazing." He had nothing to talk about with Zhou Huo, and remembered that there were several bosses waiting in another room, and put the reason with Zhou Huo. Said and left quickly. Back in the original room, the bosses had already had enough to eat, and they talked about the matter of the Chamber of Commerce protest. Just to be polite and wait for Lin Qijun to come back to say hello. Seeing Lin Qijun coming back, several people talked about the ideas they had discussed, and the meal was over. Lin Qijun was naturally the host. Boss Zhang is indulging in the wind and moon. His body has lost maintenance, and he has a problem of frequent urination. Before getting on the car, he always goes for a small check. After the check, he came back to the room and took a coat that he had forgotten on the chair. Lin Qijun happened to see it, so tipped a waiter and planned to leave. Boss Zhang said, "You say it's a coincidence that Pai is here to eat tonight?" Lin Qijun asked, "How do you know?" Boss Zhang said, "I just came out of the thatched hut and was at the end of the corridor. I saw him entering the fan restaurant with an adjutant, followed by a number of guards. I saw that adjutant last time at dinner. His surname is Xuan." After a pause, he lowered his voice a little, and said fascinated, "I see that the two of them must have a leg. That adjutant. Even Pai Yunfei can compete with him. With such a good appearance, what kind of adjutant can he be? How many official duties can he handle? It's not a false name? This surname is Pai can really enjoy it." Lin Qijun felt uncomfortable when he heard it, like someone had poured vinegar on the wound cut by a knife. Although he hated Xuan Huaifeng's change of heart, he also hated Boss Zhang's face, and said sternly, "Don't do it." Saying this, I can't vouch for others. This adjutant Xuan was my classmate back then. I know it very well. When I came to the customs office, he was very conscientious. He is not the kind of person who is not good at it. Boss Zhang asked the boss to be boring, and said, I didn't expect that there are such good people next to the surname Pai. Huh. After saying goodbye to Lin Qijun, he took the things and left embarrassedly. Lin Qijun originally wanted to go back to the city to see Pai Yunfei after eating, but now he has more thoughts. When I went to see Xuan Huaifeng, there was nothing to say, and Xuan Huaifeng must have Bai Xuelan by his side. Seeing them in pairs, it was just to make himself uncomfortable. But after leaving like this, I am not reconciled no matter what, and I am afraid that when I go home, I will be thinking about things over and over again. He was scratching like a cat with its paws outstretched in his heart. It hurt and messed up. He suddenly thought, is this what it feels like to lose the one you love? Thinking about it this way made it even more sad. How much Xuan Huaifeng paid to him in the past, knowing that he was a little unhappy, Xuan Huaifeng felt the same. And was even more unhappy than him. How about now? He broke his liver and intestines in vain here, but that one and Bai Xuelan were enjoying a steak dinner leisurely. No. Xuan Huaifeng should also know the pain of his betrayal. Huaifeng is a soft-hearted person. Maybe seeing his pain, he will feel guilt and pity. As Lin Qijun thought about it, there was another hope in his heart, as if he was looking for a missing lover. He couldn't help walking out of the room and looking for Huaifeng's figure in the restaurant.